Voyager 1 endured the silence. It crossed the threshold into the starless gulf, into interstellar space itself. And for years, it kept murmuring back to Earth, sending fragments of knowledge from the farthest edge of everything humanity has ever touched. But lately, something changed. After months of silence and a corrupted memory system, the spacecraft stirred again. It spoke not in the form of ordinary data, but with something stranger, a steady, low vibration, a whisper more like a warning than a measurement, a gravitational tug where none should exist. And inside NASA, a silence far louder than words. This is not another deep space curiosity. This feels like confirmation. The boundary of our solar system is not empty, and perhaps it never was. For decades, Voyager 1 has been humanity's quiet scout, the furthest ambassador of our species, drifting deeper than any machine we've ever launched. It has exceeded every prediction, survived every expectation, and still carried a fragile heartbeat across the gulf. But in the final months of 2024, its message began to unravel. Instead of measurements, it transmitted only static and noise, chaotic streams, replacing the once steady river of information. Engineers traced the failure to its flight data system, the probe's fragile mind. Commands were still being received. Signals were still being sent, but what returned was madness. For nearly 5 months, Earth waited. Every attempt to restore order was slow and uncertain. Each command taking 22 hours to arrive, another 22 hours for a reply, 45 hours per question, 45 hours per hope, and then against every calculation, it answered. March 20, 2025, Voyager 1 spoke again. Mission Control celebrated, but the celebration did not last because what returned was not familiar. The spacecraft was alive, its instruments intact, but the cosmos around it had shifted. What Voyager reported was not the calm frontier we imagined. The so-called edge of the solar system, the helipause, was supposed to be a fading gradient, a soft transition into the interstellar medium. But Voyager described a storm, a violent wall of plasma, spikes of pressure, bursts of radiation, not a border, but a barrier. And inside the data was something more unsettling. Vast fluctuations in particle density, as though space itself was pulsing like a heartbeat in the dark. And it was not a glitch. Multiple instruments confirmed it. The rhythm grew stronger as the probe pressed farther into the abyss, not chaos, pattern. Then came the signal buried within the telemetry. Voyager carried a faint continuous tone, a low band, just 3 kilohertz. It was too steady to dismiss, too persistent to ignore. Years ago, it was brushed aside as background noise. But now, stronger, clearer, impossible to deny, it revealed itself. It had always, this tone did not waver with solar storms. It did not bend with radiation. It remained constant, patient, almost deliberate, not noise, structure. And as this realization spread through the control room, a darker question followed. What if Voyager wasn't just hearing the void? What if the void was speaking back? The final anomaly arrived with quiet terror. Voyager's path no longer aligned with predictions. It was drifting, not from aging thrusters, not from failing systems, but from an invisible hand. A slow, steady pull. Gravitational influence with no star, no planet, no visible mass to explain it. The region ahead was mapped, measured, empty. And yet something was drawing it forward. NASA turned its telescopes toward that darkness. They found no light, no radiation, no heat, only absence, and still the pull remained. Some whispered of a hidden planet, others of a black hole or a knot of dark matter, but nothing explained the pulse, the signal, the coherence of it all. Voyager was not simply falling, it was being led. And the deeper mystery unfolded, not in space, but here on Earth. Updates from the Deep Space Network, once routine and transparent, grew sparse and vague. Mission logs vanished. Reports arrived heavily edited. Engineers who once shared their work fell silent. The veil of secrecy descended as though Voyager had carried home more than data. As though it had crossed into matters no longer considered science alone. Speculation erupted across the globe. Some researchers clung to physics, dark matter pockets, cosmic echoes, resonances from the birth of the universe. Others whispered the unthinkable, that the signal was not natural, that the force was not gravity but intention. And a few, standing at the edge of science and myth, suggested something stranger still, that Voyager had crossed a threshold, activating something buried in the structure of reality itself. That space does not simply exist but responds. And if that is true, then the probe has carried us into an encounter older than humanity, older than stars. A system not passive, but reactive, not empty, but aware. Voyager 1, once the quiet messenger of curiosity, now drifts as a herald of consequence. Its course may no longer be its own. And we must ask, what lies beyond the dark? And should we keep going? The spacecraft was meant to be a farewell, a golden record cast into eternity. Instead, it has whispered back, not comfort, but a question. What if the edge of the solar system was never a boundary, but a threshold? What if silence itself was not emptiness, but restraint? What if, in reaching outward, we ourselves were finally seen?